We had started for the topic for design for test in the last class itself. And just to recap, we had discussed that when we have manufactured our circuits, manufactured our embedded system, then we are supposed to uh, check it, and because it is large in number, we have to see to it that it is good, the design is good enough that it can be tested. That means testability of the system should be good. So what do we do is, in design for test, it involves applying test cases on the chip inputs and verifying that the chip produces the correct output. So you know what is test bench, but test bench is a little different from this. This is for the final product test, the final chip test or final manufactured chip test it is. And because if it is a complex circuit or it is a big system, then it takes more time for the testing. So what we do under this is, we have to include additional circuitry so that we can design the system properly, and we can improve its testability. And when we are talking about design for test, we make special internal nodes, and those nodes will be able to test this intermediate signal. So when you have a system, it has inputs and outputs. It is not that you have to access only input and output to test a system. You are supposed to access intermediate signal also. So what does it do? The special design for test, uh, the special design for test says that the internal nodes should be observable, and we are supposed to make circuits. We have to make the circuit in such a way that we are able to perform the testing. So now under design for test, we had already discussed some part. I had told you that we make specific fault model. Fault model means we simulate the fault. Specific fault we make, fault vectors we make, test vectors we make to detect the fault, and the simulators will be there which will repeat the simulation for all other types of fault and location of fault. And all these fault should be able to cover all the possible type of fault in our system. If my system is capable of producing 100 types of fault, and if I am able to model the fault and simulate the fault only for 60% of it, that means I have not made a good design for test. So we should, ideally the fault coverage should be 100%. It is not feasible, but we should try the best possible thing without complexing the circuit, just for the testability. And we have automatic test pattern generator, that is also automated tool which is used for this purpose. Now I had discussed in the last class stuck at model also. I showed you how stuck at one at this wire will be um, observable only when your A is a 0. If A is 0, BC, whatever it is, does not matter. If A is 0, that means if it is A is 0, 0, 0, such cases only it will be detecting the fault. So I had told you that, for example, if you have a stuck at one fault here, it is difficult for the designer to detect it until and unless you are having a specific test pattern which will be able to detect this fault. For example, if it is stuck at 1, and if your input is suppose 1 1 1, it will not be detecting. If it is 1 0 0, then also it will not be detecting. It will detect the fault only if your A becomes 0. If A becomes 0, and if your A is 0 and output comes as 0, then also it is not able to detect the fault. But if your A is a 1, if your A is a 1 here, and by default your because this is stuck at 1, if A is 1 and B and C either or both are 0, then only it will be able to detect the fault. So this is an example of stuck at one fault. Stuck on fault also was discussed, in which one of the transistor is stuck on. So when you know that if it is it's an inverter circuit, and it will be either the PMOS or the NMOS will be on at a time. But if your PMOS is stuck on, means it is permanently on, and for a specific case your NMOS also becomes on, so it makes a voltage divider circuit. So the output here will be somewhere in between 0 and 1 case. So such intermediate voltage whenever is seen in such transistor, we understand that there is a stuck on fault. So I am trying to tell you is that stuck at model and stuck on model, all both of this is capable of detecting and simulating only if there is a specific test pattern which is able to detect this fault. So I am trying to tell you what is the importance of specific test pattern generator. So test pattern generator means it should be able to generate all the varieties of pattern, so that if there is a fault at a different places, at a different location, it should be detectable. So that is the importance of test pattern generator. So anyway, we will see that more later also. Now, other types of fault are bridge fault, short circuit connections between signal wires. There will be delay fault also, when you will understand that this specific value or signal should have come earlier, but it is not coming early, means there is some problem in through the path that it is delaying. So that is called as delay fault, in which the propagation delay of a circuit takes longer time than normal time. And there may also be a fault in storage elements. So these are the initial discussion which we did. Then I had also discussed about scan design and boundary scan. Now scan design, as I said, one by one, you take one your scan will be scanning from row to row, column to column, complete document scans. That is the meaning of scan, isn't it? So scan design in our sequential system. Why scan design is important in sequential system? Because you saw in previous case, this was an example of combinational circuits. Combinational circuit means if you have a different test pattern, it will be able to detect the fault. But what happens in sequential system? It depends upon the path of the signal. It may not be the same path always. So we need to scan. Scan means it need to see all the path through which a sequential design signal can flow. So scan design means it basically address the problem of sequential system or sequential data path by testing. How does it test? It modifies the registers. It modifies the registers, whether it is shift register or any other register, by allowing them to chain into long shift register. That is called a scan chain. So here you can see in this diagram, this example, in which what is does it? It modifies the register, and it forms the shift register to shift the test vector in the circuit, and then whatever output results come, it will understand whether your design is working properly or not. So this example you can see, it is the connection of modified register for a scan chain. Modified, why it is modified? Because the design is modified in such a way that it is able to be testable. It is testable circuit. So how the modification is done? You know that a D flip flop has an input of D, Q and clock only. D, Q and clock. Extra thing has come as scan in and mode. So mode will make it to test mode. If it is test mode, it will not take the data in here. It will take the data as scan in here. So if it is not in test mode, means if it is 0 and it is not in test mode, then whatever data you give in, that only will go out, and that it behaves as a simple D register. But if scan mode is high, then it does not take this data in register, it takes the scan in data. So what happens, if you make test mode as high, then it makes a chain of shift register. So what will happen, whatever data you enter here, that data will be available at Q, and whatever is at Q will be available at the scan in, and whatever is available at this Q, it will be scan in. So you can see when the test mode is equal to 1, there is a chain established. The chain is how, scan in from here to Q, to scan in here, to Q, to scan in here, to scan out here. So this forms a chain. Now, after forming this chain, the test pattern will be inputted here to understand whether the things are working fine or not. So you put your scan in value here, the data here, and you check your scan out data here. And this is how it is called scan. Why? Because it is scanning each and every register whichever is coming in the data path. I hope you remember what is data path. The data, whatever flows through a system, that is your data path. Now we are modifying the register. You see this word modifying register. In the last class I had showed you that circuit also about the modifying register, how a D flip-flop or D register is changed to or is modified to make it testable. So what you had seen was this. So you know this is your D flip-flop. This is your D flip-flop, and how it is modified to be used in a scan chain. You saw that along with this D flip-flop, you have a mux here, 2:1 mux here. And this mode, if mode is 0, means it is a normal behavior. Normal behavior. Now you imagine that mode is 0. So this D, input D is connected to this D, and it is a normal D register. And if mode is 0, clock and chip enable will be high anyway. Chip enable mode 0. It will anyway go and enable your chip of D flip-flop. So inside this box, you will have your D flip-flop as well as this extra circuit to make it testable for scan chain. So now when you saw that mode is 0, it was behaving as a normal D flip-flop. But if it mode is 1, then what happens? The mode 1 means scan in data will go inside the D flip-flop. And mode 1 also will enable the chip through this OR gates, chip enable. And this is your clock circuit. So clock circuit is there. So in total, this flip-flop is modified with respect to the scan design circuit. So this is how we do things for sequential circuit. Now what you have to understand here is, as a part of physical design, we have a tool which will substitute this modified flip-flop, and it will have a shift mode. Shift mode means what? Shifting from testing to the actual working. Anything is fine. So that is what you have as a part of physical design that comes. Now this is a very nice thing, but of course you can understand the problem associated with it. So what are the disadvantages? Disadvantage is overhead. Overhead means you have to have a extra circuit. So you can see in place of D flip-flop, I have 2:1 mux, 2 input OR gate, extra things are coming. So this is your extra circuit. Extra circuit means your overhead. Overhead is adding to what? It is adding to a circuit area, as well as it is adding to the delay part. So D data will not immediately available here. No, it will take one clock cycle to come from this side to this side. So this is your problem with the delay, as well as area is of course required because extra things are being made on the circuit. Also, if you have a small sequential circuit, no problem. But if it is a long scan chain, it will produce more delay. So that is the disadvantage. Now what is the solution for this? We can't sit with this disadvantage, no. So what is the solution? The solution is this overhead time can be reduced by dividing the scan chain into different segments, and these segments can be tested in parallel. So this is the one of the solution. The overhead time can be reduced by dividing the scan chain, and each scan chain segment should be working in parallel, should be testing in parallel. So we have to make the design in such a way it should not compromise on the speed of the circuit. Also, another thing is, for each chain we have separate input and output pin, correct? For each chain we have separate input and output pin. So we have to understand that you need to compromise between what, between how much extra time you can give for the testing, or how many extra pins, extra interface pin, extra input output pins you can dedicate for testing purpose. So you have to understand whether you are fine with the time taken, let it be long chain, or you are fine by increasing the area by adding few more test pin, and let it be taken as test pin count overhead. So this is the two possibility, two solution to keep on working with scan design without having these disadvantages. Now coming to the next part is boundary scan. Boundary scan is what you had seen in your labs also. So boundary scan means what? As the name suggests, it refers to the boundary. Now, scan design, you know what it is? It is scanning each and every part, intermediate signals, and everything it is testing. So that is scan design. Now, this is extended for the connection between the chips. You understand, na, boundary, where the what do you have at boundary? You have all the interface connections at the boundary. So scan design is good to check the things inside the circuit, intermediate signal of the circuit, all that it is fine. But what about the interface part? So for interface part we have boundary scan, so it is extended for testing the connection between the chips on a PCB. So this is that is why it is called as boundary scan. And what happens in this, it in, along with the scan chain flip flop, we have to also this idea is to include the scan chain flip flop on the external pin of the each chip. You know that in a complete embedded system you may have many chips, and each chip will have the interface pin which will be connecting to either the other chips on the same PCB, or to the input output pin. So here they are talking about each chip external pins. Now we have standard, it is called as JTAG standard. So this JTAG standard, what is the full form of JTAG? JTAG full form is Joint Test Action Group. It was formed in 1980s. Okay, and what you have seen in your lab also is JTAG only. So JTAG is the Joint Test Action Group, which was formed in 1980s. And what did it do? It was standardizing the boundary scan components and protocols. And this standardization has been managed by IEEE under the IEEE standard of 1149.1. That part I have not included here, but it is good if you know these things. Okay, so now this JTAG standard, what does it do? It specifies that each component, whatever component you are building, each component should have test access port, that is called as TAP. Without this you can't manufacture things, without this you can't design things. These are the standard given, you have to follow this standard. So what is that standard? Under JTAG, that is Joint Test Action Group, under JTAG you have a TAP, Test Access Port. So this standard says that each chip should have extra ports for the testing purpose. And this test access port, what all it has? It has four things. Number one, test clock. It has test clock. What does it do? It provides the test clock signal for the test logic. See, you people already have a clock. Apart from clock, you will have this TCK, test clock. Next will you have is test mode select inputs, that is TMS. What does it do? It controls the test operation. So what happened? You got a clock, you got the control for the test operation. Now what does it, what interface means? Something goes in, something comes out. So then another two things what you have is test data input and test data output. That is TDI, TDO. So test data input, what it will do, it will serial input for test data and instruction. What do you mean by this? It will give the serial input for the test data. Test data means those pattern what is generated, that is only called as test data. So this test data input will be allowing to input the pattern, test pattern through this TDI. Along with the test pattern, you will also enter the instructions. Same way, TDO will have the serial output for the test data and instruction. So whatever data is inputted and outputted, with that we will understand whether my chip interface connections are working fine or not. Now we have something called as ATE, automatic test equipment. Okay, so automatic test equipment, it will be able to show a typical connection of TAP, that is test access port, for any component on a PCB. One example I will show you. This is one example of boundary scan. So what you can see, we are least bothered about what these blocks are and what these blocks are doing. So you have this ATE. You see this? This is your ATE. This ATE only I was talking about. It is called as automatic test equipment. See what happens here is, when the any embedded system is given to a test engineer, or if it has gone bad, if it is not working, then when the repair engineer comes, what does it do? He will connect the system in the test mode. It will connect the system in test mode means what? It will have this automatic test equipment. It will connect this automatic test equipment to your chip. And when it connects this to your chip means all the blocks, these all are your different chips. What these chips are doing, I don't know, because they are not bothered to show what it, we are not bothered about the operational function of this. So what we are bothered, we are only bothered to check the boundary scan. Boundary scan means I am just trying to see whether the interface connection of each of the chip is fine or not. This is one of the testing process. If this is fine, then what it will do, it will try to go to the other part and try to see what is the problem. So this is how we have to understand the working of it. So each one will be connecting to the TCK, TMS, TDI, TDO. This is already told to you. This is test clock, test mode, select input, TMS, test data input and test data output. So this automatic test equipment will connect to all these three connections, and this is how it will be testing the boundary scan part. Okay, so the test logic and what happens when the tap controller governs the operation of the test logic. So what you can see in this is that there are number of register for test data and instruction. So see, you can see here, this is the tap controller. Now one of the component is shown here. Okay, so this is the tap controller. What does this tap controller do? It has control of your TMS and TCK. Okay, TMS and TCK was, what was TMS and TCK? TMS was test mode select input and TCK was your clock for the test logic. So this TMS and TCK will be controlled by this tap controller, and it will give the instruction register. Instruction register will give what data should be inputted and it will check what data is coming out. So this instruction register information will be given by tap controller, which will be decoded, and specific design, specific registers, it will go to that, and then it will be entered to your component core. And whatever data you are inputting, can you see here now, the data whatever is inputting here, this data will go into this component core for the testing purpose. So next what will happen, this component will be working, and all this data, all this output pins or bidirectional output, all this will come here, and this output will come to this mux, and that also will be controlled through this instruction decoder as the select line is connected here. And along with this, what all registers we had given, all that are connected to this mux, and finally it is coming as TDO, and this TDO comes here, which can be seen whether the proper thing has come or not, proper pattern has come or not. So this is the internal, more detailed component connection, architecture of component when we do JTAG boundary scan. Okay, so this is what happens when a tap controller works here. So what does tap controller do? It operates as a simple finite state machine. It operates as a simple finite state machine and changing between states for on the value of the TMS input. And here is your TMS input. So this is what happens under your boundary scan component testing. Okay. Now this is again one component is shown here. Okay. Typical boundary scan cell for an input and output pin is shown here. So what you can see here, that depending upon the control input, what are the control input? These are it. The data can flow straight through, or input data can be captured, output data can be driven, and test data can be shifted through. So what happens here? Let me show you very clearly. See what you can see here. Shift DR. This will be telling whether your data in will be directly going. Here is your mode. Here is your mode. If mode is 0, the data will be directly going as the data out. But if this mode is 1, then what will happen? This mode will 1, and this mode 1 will make the data come through these D registers. And what is the clock? Clock is clock DR and update DR. So that is your, and this is your shift DR. Shift DR means now whatever is going as scan in will come here, and this will be working with this clock. This D flip flop will be working with this update DR clock, and this scan in data will flow from here through this D register, and then it will come. Also in between scan out is happening, means it is trying to access this specific wire data. So this is what is happening as one of the components. So what is happening? This is the JTAG boundary scan cell for an input or output pin. So if it is not in working mode, means it is not in testing mode, data in whatever is here will directly reach. If it is in testing mode, all these things will come intermediate into picture, and then it will be tested. So this is how the boundary scan works for one cell. Okay. Now this JTAG architecture solves two problems. Okay, it solves two problems. Okay, the first one is it does in-circuit testing of a component in a system. Okay, in-circuit testing of component in a system, and the next one is in-circuit testing of connection between the component. So two things are coming into picture. One is in-circuit testing of the component. The second one is in-circuit testing of the connection between the component. Now this flexibility for the JTAG architecture, it has led to the widespread use of this standard. And with the EDA tools available for the insertion of test logic. Insertion of test logic means what? You can see that it will be working in a test mode or it will be working in a normal mode. So, so this EDA tool, it is available for the insertion of the test logic into the design during the various stages of the design flow. Now, this JTEC standard is also extended to support in circuit programming of ROMs and CPLDs, including FPGA. So, this is all about boundary scan. And next, we will go to the built-in self-test. Built-in self-test is the last part under the design for test.